Hempstead, trapped on the other side of the fence, squealed in frustration and searched for an opening. He wandered back and forth, huffing and grunting, and found nothing that would allow his human or pig form to pass. Desperately, he got to his hands and knees and tried to squeeze through the wires. And that's when Elvis made his move. The big dog ran full steam right at Hempstead like some kind of fur-covered locomotive. He leaped onto Sheriff Hempstead's broad back and used it as a springboard. The sheriff let out a painful grunt as Elvis sailed effortlessly over the top of the fence and landed on all fours. The chubby policeman quickly recovered. He stood up, grabbed a fence post, and began to climb. Sabrina knew she had to do something. She grabbed another post and pushed on her weight against it. Discovering it was quite loose in the ground, she shook it back and forth as hard as she could, and the fence swayed uncontrollably. "Hey, stop that!" Hempstead shouted nervously as he climbed to the fence. Daphne rushed to Sabrina's side, and together they shook the fence even harder. Suddenly, with a loud tearing of fabric, Sheriff Hempstead's body thumped the ground on his side of the fence. He groaned aloud in an angry cry. After a moment, he picked himself up. Unfortunately, his pants had not survived the fall. They hung from the sharp teeth of the barbed wire fence, leaving the sheriff in just a pair of droopy long johns. Defeated, he hobbled back to his car. "He's leaving," Sabrina said as she followed her sister into the dark woods. "He turned into a pig," Daphne whispered. "I saw him," Sabrina replied, "but I think we have another problem." The little lights waited patiently ahead of them. They darted into the woods and then came back out as if they wanted the girls to follow them. "What do you want?" Sabrina asked, and the lights shimmered and blinked in answer. "Should we follow them?" said Daphne. "I don't see that we've got much of a choice," Sabrina said, thinking the lights might attack if they didn't. She took her sister's hand and they walked through the dark branches, with Elvis trotting closely behind. Low-hanging branches blocked their path, and with each step the girls had to dodge and weave to get through. Several times Sabrina walked into the trees, feeling the prickly spindles of a pine or the crusty bark of an oak tear at her clothes and skin. The lights guided them, slowing down occasionally to see if they were keeping up. "And making sure we're following them," Sabrina said, wondering if it was a good thing or a bad thing. Soon the girls stepped into a clearing. In the center was a pile of junk: an old refrigerator, a couple of burned-out microwaves, some abandoned teddy bears, and a broken toilet had been assembled into a massive chair. Sitting on the junk throne was a boy with a mop of blonde hair that was tousled and dirty. He wore a pair of baggy blue jeans and a green hooded sweatshirt in desperate need of washing, and in his hand he held a small sword. But most interesting was the golden crown that rested on his head. "Pixies," he called to the little lights, "what have you found?" The little lights erupted into a loud buzzing. "Spies, you say?" the boy asked. "Well, what do we do with spies?" There was more buzzing in response, and a wicked grin appeared on the boy's face. "That's correct," he laughed. "We drown them." Chapter 6. When the girls protested at kidnapping, the army of pixies surrounded them and delivered several stings. Nursing their wounds, the girls were forced to follow the odd boy further into the woods. "Where are you taking us?" Sabrina asked, but the boy just laughed. Soon they came to the edge of the forest, where a tall fence blocked their way. Built into the fence was a door, and the boy pushed it open. The girls stepped through and found themselves standing in front of a top-covered swimming pool in the backyard of a two-story suburban-style house. Some pixies swirled around the top and lifted it off the pool. The others zipped off and returned with a rope. They stung Sabrina's arms relentlessly until she put them behind her back, and then they tied the rope around her wrists. The boy stuck the tip of his sword into Sabrina's back. He forced her onto the sliding board. "You've made a terrible mistake, spy," he shouted. "We're not spies," Sabrina exclaimed. "Tell it to the fish," the boy hollered, causing the little lights to make a tittering noise that sounded like laughter. Sabrina looked down at the pool and wondered how deep the water was. There was a diving board, so it had to be deep, and with her arms tied behind her, she'd suddenly drown if the icy water didn't freeze her to death first. She tugged at the ropes, but each pull just tightened them around her wrists. So, Spy, would you like to repent your crimes before you meet your watery doom? The boy asked. What crimes? Sabrina cried, and then took a deep breath, certain he would push her in. But after several moments, nothing happened. The crime of trying to steal the old lady away from me, the mop-top boy declared. Granny? Daphne asked from the side of the pool. The one they call Rhoda Green. Rhoda Green is our grandmother, and we're not trying to steal her. We're trying to save her, Sabrina shouted. Save her? The boy asked suspiciously. Save her from what? A giant, the two girls called out together. Sabrina could sense the captor's confusion. She turned and found him talking to several of the little lights that hovered around his head. Of course it makes a difference, the boy replied, annoyed. We're trying to get home. We need to save her before it's too late, Daphne pleaded. The boy groaned and quickly untied Sabrina's wrist. Where did this happen? He asked. How big was the giant? But Sabrina didn't answer. Instead, she spun around, grabbed the boy by the shoulders, and heaved him into the pool, sending a splash of water and soggy dead leaves high into the air. The sword had slipped from the boy's hand as he fell, and with nimble fingers Sabrina caught it. She leaped to safety on the side of the pool and waved the sword threateningly at the pixies. You're going to let us walk out of here, she demanded. There was no movement at first, but when they flew around the pool making a laughing sound, as if they were chuckling at their leader's misfortune. Sabrina stood dumbfounded, unsure of what to do next. A geyser of water shot high into the air, with the soaked boys riding its crest. When the water crashed back into the pool, the boy stayed aloft, several feet above Sabrina. Two huge wings had come out of his back and were flapping loudly. Oddly enough, the boy was laughing. You think this is funny? Sabrina exploded. She began making jabs at the boy, who flew effortlessly away from her thrust. A kid and a bunch of flying cockroaches for kidnapping girls and threatening to kill them? That's how you losers have fun? Aw, we wouldn't have killed you. We were just fooling, the boy said. Well, if you're finished with your stupid psychotic games, my sister and I have to rescue our grandmother, Sabrina declared. She took Daphne's hand and turned to leave. Elvis joined them, but Sabrina shot him an angry look. The dog had spent the entire episode sitting lazily by the pool as if nothing peculiar was happening. The Great Dane caught her eye and whined. You've only been in this town for 2 days, and you've already lost the old lady, the boy said bitterly as he floated into the girl's path. We didn't lose her. She was taken by a monster as big as a mountain, Sabrina argued. Well, if you come here looking for help, you've come to the wrong place, the boy crowed. Rescuing old ladies is a job for a hero. I'm a villain of the worst kind. Good. We don't want your help, Sabrina said angrily, tossing the boy's sword aside. I thought Peter Pan was one of the good guys, Daphne added. The boy's face turned so red Sabrina thought his head might explode. Peter Pan? I'm not Peter Pan. I'm Puck. Who's Puck? Daphne asked. Who's Puck? The boy cried. I'm the most famous ever actor in this town. My exploits are known around the world. I've never heard of you, Sabrina replied. She spun around and started walking through the yard to the street, with her sister and Elvis following. After only a couple of steps, the boy was hovering in front of them again. You've never heard of the Trickster King? Puck asked, shocked. The girls shook their heads. The Prince of Fairies? Robin Goodfellow? The Imp? Do you work for Santa? Daphne asked. I'm a fairy, not an elf, Puck roared. You really don't know who I am. Doesn't anyone read the classics anymore? Dozens of writers have warned the world about me. I'm in the most famous of all of William Shakespeare's plays. I don't remember any Puck in Romeo and Juliet, Sabrina muttered, feeling a little amused at how the boy was reacting to his nod to liberty. Besides Romeo and Juliet, Puck shouted, I'm the star of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Congratulations, Sabrina said flatly. Never read it. Puck floated down to the ground, his wings disappeared, and he spun around on his heel, transforming into a big shaggy dog. Elvis growled at the sight of him, but Puck didn't attack. Instead, he shook himself all over, spraying the girls with water. When he was finished, He morphed back into a boy. As she wiped the water off her face, Sabrina was tempted to give the weird boy another piece of her mind, but they had wasted enough time with this Puck. She took Daphne's hand in hers once more, and together they marched down the deserted street. "I'm afraid the lady is a goner," Puck taunted. "You'll get no help from me. Like I said, I'm a villain." "Fine," Sabrina shouted back. "Fine." Daphne turned on the boy. "You sent those pixies to attack us last night, didn't you?" "Just a little fun," Puck replied. "That wasn't very nice." The little girl gave him her best angry look and then turned to join her sister. "I'm a lot of things, but nice isn't one of them," the boy called after them. "Maybe we should team up with him? He could fly over the forest and spot the giant," Daphne suggested to Sabrina. "Daphne, you saw what a lunatic he is. I don't want him to ruin whatever slim chance we might have." The path to the front door of Granny Rhoda's cottage seemed like a walk up a mountain, and by the time they arrived at the house, Sabrina was nearly asleep standing up. She took out Granny's keyring and felt the weight of 100 keys jingling in her hand, singing their mysteries. By the time all the locks were open, it seemed as if hours had passed. Elvis was asleep and drooling on the sidewalk, swinging his thick legs back and forth as he dreamed. As Sabrina unlocked the final lock, she turned to her sister and smiled. "That's all of them." She twisted the knob and leaned into the door. Unfortunately, the door didn't swing open. In fact, it didn't budge at all. "What's wrong?" Daphne said, sitting up. She had been resting on the ground with her head on Elvis's warm belly. "It's jammed," Sabrina said, pushing her shoulder against the big door to force it open. Daphne got up and walked over. "Are you sure you unlocked them all?" she said. Sabrina fumed. If she knew anything, it was how to unlock a door. They'd escaped from a dozen foster homes in the last year and a half. Locks were not Sabrina's problem. She took the cold doorknob in her hand and turned it, proving that she had unlocked it. She pushed hard, but still nothing happened. "Well, it's not opening. Maybe the back door," she said, preparing to circle the house. "You've forgotten the secret," a familiar voice commented. Puck floated to the ground, his huge wings disappearing just as he landed. "What do you want?" Sabrina demanded. "I did a flyby all the way up into the mountains. I found some tracks, but no giant," Puck said. "I sent some pixies to keep searching without me." Sabrina turned the doorknob angrily, hoping the door would suddenly open so she could laugh as she slammed it in Puck's face, but again nothing happened. "You have to tell the house you are home," Puck sighed. "Of course!" Daphne knocked on the door 3 times. "We home," she said, repeating the same words the girls had heard Granny Rhoda say each time they had entered the door and entered the house and turning the doorknob. The door finally swung open. "How do you know that?" Daphne asked Puck. "The old lady and I are close. She tells me everything." Elvis immediately leaped to his feet and trotted into the house, nearly knocking over the girls on his way to the kitchen. The girls followed and Puck pushed his way in as well, closing the door behind him. "Now, I know I'm one of the bad guys," the boy said, tossing himself into the fluffy recliner in the living room. But the old lady does provide me with a meal from time to time. Not that I feel any loyalty. If she were to get eaten by a giant, my free lunches would disappear. So, we should probably get started." "We? What do you mean, we?" Sabrina cried. "Of course, you two will have to keep this to yourselves," the boy continued, ignoring Sabrina. "I do have a reputation as the worst of the worst. If word got out that the trickster was helping the heroes, well, it would be scandalous." The girls stared at each other, dumbfounded. "First things first, I want you to prepare a hearty meal so that I will have plenty of energy to kill the giant," Puck instructed. "You've got to be kidding," Sabrina groaned. "The old lady always makes lunch what a mystery is for. I know it's not the most glamorous work, but I think you two are best suited my time. So I'll upload one last video a few